Hello my rose besties, it's Yuli back again. I've got my glasses on, you know what time it is. It's time for class. Now today's lesson we're going to learn about RRD, which stands for Rosette disease. It is a disease that is so serious, it's worse than cancer for roses. Now I don't want to scare you off, which is why I'm going to hold your hands and teach you this very important lesson so you are aware. And like always, we're going to learn how to identify it, what's the cause of the disease, and how can you prevent it. Unfortunately, as of now, there's no cure for this disease. I know there's a group of scientists out there dedicating their time to studying and trying to find a cure for this disease, which is why it's so important that I need to bring more awareness to it and for you to really understand how to identify, how to take proper steps once you do identify, and what to do after that. So first thing you need to understand is that how does one rose contract this terrible disease? So RRD is spread through the wind by these microscopic tiny itty bitty mites called Yoursyuli mites. When I say tiny, they are undetectable. You can't see it with your bare eyes. You have to see it through a telescope. And just imagine it travels through wind, how fast it can go and how just quickly it can spread. And once these mites found your rose and start using it as a host, it's going to start affecting your rose in small parts. And here are some of the signs to help you identify RRD. As you can see, I found you a picture of what common RRD will look like once it starts taking over a rose plant. First thing you're going to notice is these very strong, thick, succulent-like canes starts to shoot up. And it almost looks like new growth, but you'll notice that the cane itself is covered in an abnormal amount of thorns. And the thorns are red, and you can see the leaves appear to be reddish as well, and they kind of have this distorted look where they curl in. Do not mistake this for new growth, because new growth sometimes, the new leaves can look red as well. But the difference between leaves that are infected with RRD and new growth is that the RRD infected leaves will never turn green. Also, your rose buds will be very tiny and will have a hard time to open. Even if it does open, it's going to look very stringy. Now you know what that looks like, and you're almost certain that it is RRD. I do recommend you to get a second opinion from your local extension office just to be sure. And once you truly confirm that it is infected with RRD, I need you to do the following steps. First thing I need you to do is to go to roserosette.org and then report the incident immediately. And this is not you snitching on yourself or ratting somebody out by reporting. This really is something that there's a dedicated group of people out there that are tracking every infection to help others to look out for this disease. You're really helping others by doing so. So please do that first. Next thing I need you to do is to wear disposable garden gears, meaning gloves and etc. Now, I need you to remove the entirety of the plant. The root ball, the dirt, everything. And I know this really hurts. And it's gonna hurt even more when I tell you that you have to remove all of the roses around it. There's just no way around it. Even if the roses around it doesn't look like it's infected, they will be eventually. And you gotta get it controlled fast. Now make sure you bag the diseased plant in secure bags and tight them before you dispose them. Do not try to burn them or just leave them out in the open so the mice can travel elsewhere. Also make sure that you sanitize, throw away the disposable gears, wash everything down, making sure that everything is sanitized, because we don't want that to spread anywhere else. Now that it is recommended, I will recommend this to you, to replace the soil around it too. Even if you don't replace it, try to dig up the soil and apply herbicide. And I will not plant any more roses in that same area for at least 3 to 5 years. And as painful as it is for me to tell you that from one rosarian to another, it's just what you have to do. And I get it, you probably don't want to leave that area bare. You just have to plant something else. At this point, you might be wondering, well, so what are some of the preventative steps I can take? Well, number one, I need you to know what are some of the more common varieties that could be more susceptible to RRD. Knockout roses and landscape roses are typically a lot more prone to contract RRD. That is why I don't recommend anybody to plant a bunch of knockout, in masses, like through the entire wall. space them out. Don't plant them too closely. And I know you love knockout. It's probably because they're so low maintenance. They don't require a lot of, caring and deadheading, all of that. But it doesn't mean that it's zero care. Any roses, you will still want to, observe it and try to care for it on a regular basis. So if it is infected like this, you can catch it fast. If I'm being honest, the bloom of knockout roses, they really don't last that long. That's why the turnover, the repeat rate is so fast, because the petal count is very low. And once the sun hits, I often describe them as pancake roses. They kind of just like flop and flattens. But I do get it, everybody has their own preference, and this is just a preference of mine. I would 10 times over recommend something like a shrub rose on the larger size, to use them as landscaping roses. Another way to prevent it is that it will be good for you to get into the habit of pruning at least twice a year. I do it usually towards the end of fall, which is probably around late November to December here in Texas, and also prune it again in the first 2 weeks of February. I try to do it around Valentine's Day here in Texas. Because once you prune your roses, and I prune mine heavy because I like to keep them manageable as far as height goes, you really don't leave any room or time for those mites and insects and diseases to overwinter with your roses. And lastly, because I'm extra, I do a little extra for my roses. Any roses that I buy from overseas, coming from China, Japan, and the big box store, meaning Home Depot or Lowe's, when I buy those kind of roses, I don't put them in the ground right away. I try to put them in a pot and take care of them as potted rose for at least a year or so, to really observe it and make sure it's stable enough for me to put it into the ground. That is what I call my rose quarantine period. I know a lot of people are not patient enough to do that, but you know what? I can't risk it for the biscuit, at least for myself. That might be something that you want to consider as well, especially if you did experience this already. Now that you're well educated on the disease and you know the proper steps to take care of it if you do experience it, which I'm so sorry. I feel so bad. Because I would be heartbroken if it was me. I'd probably be crying in the yard right now. But I wish you all healthy, beautiful blooms, season after season. And I hope you all stay here and study with me for the long haul. Don't forget to follow me on YT. It's linked in my bio. And like I always say, happy planting. See you in the next one, besties.